The stars were silent, but the galaxy was not. In the heart of space, the Galactic Council had gathered. Hundreds of alien species filled the chamber, their eyes cold and sharp. They spoke in voices that echoed like thunder across the hall. And their judgment was clear. Humanity was too dangerous, too unpredictable, too wild to be allowed to live. For years, humans had grown fast. Their science moved faster than empires. Their will to fight never broke, even when weaker. The Council feared this fire. And so, the order was given. Earth would be destroyed. No warning. No mercy. In one voice the alien leaders declared, humanity must end. On Earth, people watched the skies as strange lights began to appear. Great alien fleets filled the orbit like shadows of steel and flame. Panic spread in every city. World leaders tried to speak to the Council, to beg for peace, but their voices were silenced by the cold command, extinction. Families held each other, soldiers prepared their weapons, scientists searched for hope, but none was found. Humanity stood on the edge of death. The countdown began. But something happened that no one, not even the aliens, had expected. When the alien fleets unleashed their weapons, the sky broke apart in fire. Blinding light rained down, a storm meant to erase all life. Yet instead of death, humanity felt something strange. Their bodies burned, but not with pain, with power. A pulse moved through every man, woman, and child on Earth. It was not fire. It was not destruction. It was rebirth. The first to feel it was a boy in the mountains of Nepal. His body twisted, his bones reshaped, his skin burned gold. Where once a child stood, now wings spread wide, scales shone like iron, and eyes glowed like suns. He let out a roar that shook the valleys, a sound so loud it was heard by satellites in orbit. A human had been reborn, not as a man, but as a dragon. He was not alone. Across the world, change spread like wildfire. In Africa, a soldier lifted his hands and fire leapt from his veins. In America, a young girl sprouted wings of light and flew above the ruins of her city. In Europe, a doctor saw her skin turn to steel as she shielded children from falling debris. And in Asia, more and more rose into the skies, their forms half human, half dragon. The aliens watched in horror. Their weapons had not destroyed Earth. They had awakened something ancient, something buried deep inside the human race. Humanity was no longer weak flesh and fragile bone. Humanity was changing. Evolution had taken a leap beyond understanding. The Council's fleets tried to continue their attack. Beams of plasma and storms of fire rained down, but the Dragonborn rose into the air. With wings that cut the clouds and claws that glowed like molten steel, they struck back. A single dragonman tore apart a ship with his bare hands. Another flew faster than missiles, burning fighters from the sky. The roar of the Reborn shook the earth and echoed across space. Panic spread in the alien armada. Reports flew through their ranks. Impossible. They should be dead. But they were not dead. They were alive, more alive than ever. On the ground, humans who did not change felt the power too. They became stronger, faster, sharper. Farmers lifted stones heavier than machines. Children healed wounds in moments. Soldiers fought with a fire in their eyes no weapon could extinguish. Humanity as a whole was reborn. In the council chamber far away, silence fell. The alien leaders stared at the reports with disbelief. The extermination had failed. Worse than failure, it had created something new. A nightmare that could not be controlled. A whisper spread among the council members. Have we awakened them? Was this destiny? What if humanity was never meant to die? But humanity did not ask questions. They did not beg. They did not wait. For the first time, the prey had grown teeth sharper than the hunters. The galaxy that once looked at Earth with contempt now looked with fear. The boy who became a dragon soared above the clouds, his roar reaching the heavens. Fire burned in his chest, and in his heart he felt it. This was only the beginning. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The world was still shaking from the awakening. Cities burned, skies glowed with alien fire, and yet humanity stood stronger than ever before. The boy who had become the first dragon spread his wings over the mountains of Nepal, his scales shining like molten gold. For a moment he hesitated, unsure if those wings could carry him, but instinct took over. He leapt from the cliff and the wind caught him. His wings cut through the air, and he soared higher and higher. It was the first flight of a dragon human, and the sound of his roar echoed through the clouds like thunder. Across the planet, others followed. In Africa, a young woman rose from the desert sands, her body glowing with heat as her wings of fire carried her into the sky. In America, a soldier in torn armor spread massive wings and flew above the ruins of the battlefield, his eyes burning with light. In Europe, a teenager leapt from the rooftops of his city, his scales shimmering like steel, his wings stretching wide as he caught the winds. All over the world, the reborn humans felt a call deep inside them. The sky itself seemed to invite them. They were no longer bound to the ground. They were creatures of the air, masters of flame, children of evolution. The alien fleets orbiting Earth watched in disbelief. Their sensors captured impossible readings. Human signatures no longer matched anything in their databases. What they saw were not men or women but living weapons, creatures that looked like legends made real. Dragons. The Council had destroyed worlds before, but never had they seen their victims rise stronger from destruction. Fear spread among the alien crews. Commanders shouted orders, demanding their fleets attack. Energy cannons turned toward the skies, plasma fire burned bright, and missiles screamed through the air. But the dragons did not fall. The boy in Nepal, now known as Aaron among his people, rose above the storm of fire. With a single breath, he unleashed a torrent of flame so fierce it melted the missiles before they could reach him. His wings folded, and he dove toward the ground, his body cutting through the air like a falling star. He struck an alien fighter jet with his claws and ripped it apart in seconds. The explosion lit up the sky, and Aaron roared again, his voice carrying a promise: Earth would not die. Other Dragonborn joined him. In the deserts, the woman with wings of fire destroyed an entire squadron of drones with one sweep of her breath. In America, the soldier dragon slammed into an alien dropship, tearing its hull open and sending its crew scattering into the flames. Humanity was no longer hiding, no longer waiting for mercy. They had become the storm. On the ground, ordinary humans watched the skies in awe and terror. They saw their friends and family transform into winged giants, fighting battles that no human had ever dreamed of. Children pointed at the skies, shouting in wonder as dragons roared overhead. Soldiers raised their weapons with new hope, cheering as the Reborn tore apart ships that had once seemed invincible. Yet even as victory sparked across the planet, fear grew in the hearts of the Council. Reports flooded in: a single human has destroyed 3 cruisers. The plasma cannons are useless. Our shields cannot withstand their fire. The Council's voices trembled as they argued. Some demanded retreat, others demanded stronger weapons, but one truth was clear: humanity was no longer prey. Aaron, high above the mountains, felt the truth in his heart. His wings stretched wide, his scales glowed like a second sun, and in his roar was not only rage but freedom. He knew the galaxy was listening. He knew they were afraid. But he also knew something greater was coming. This was not just power. This was change. Humanity had taken its first flight, and nothing would bring them back to the ground. Far beyond Earth, in the silent halls of the Galactic Council, the alien leaders watched the images in horror. They had tried to erase humanity, but instead, they had released a force that could shake empires. The first flight of the Dragonborn was only the beginning, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's evolution had no limits. Far away from Earth, in the shining halls of the Galactic Council, fear grew like a shadow. The chamber was filled with voices from hundreds of alien species, their shapes tall, small, glowing, or scaled, but every voice carried the same tone: fear. Giant screens showed images of Earth, where humans had risen from fire and death not as victims but as dragonborn warriors of flame and light. They saw a boy with wings destroy a battleship, a soldier tear through steel with his claws, a woman of fire turn an entire squadron into ash. It was a sight that no empire in the galaxy had ever seen before. The extermination had failed. Humanity had not only survived, it had evolved. The leaders shouted at one another, their voices clashing like storms. One alien with a face of stone demanded immediate retaliation, crying that if humanity was not crushed now, no empire would ever be safe. Another with glowing eyes argued that more attacks would only awaken more of them, and soon humanity would be unstoppable. Yet another whispered in trembling fear that perhaps humanity had been chosen by some higher power, that this rebirth was destiny and not accident. The chamber filled with panic. Never before had the Council faced such a mistake. They had destroyed many worlds, erased many species, but never had their destruction made something stronger rise in return. Now, every empire, every ruler, every fleet captain was watching the same truth unfold: humans were no longer weak. They were no longer prey. They had become the most dangerous species alive. Outside the chamber, the galaxy buzzed with whispers. Traitors, mercenaries, smugglers, and spies carried the news across star systems. In every port and colony, beings of countless worlds asked the same question: what will the humans do now? Would they seek revenge? Would they spread their wings and conquer the stars? Fear turned to dread, and dread turned to panic. Back on Earth, the humans themselves did not yet know the full weight of the Council's fear. They were too busy surviving, too busy learning what their new powers meant. The Dragonborn tested their wings in the skies, flew into orbit to meet alien fleets, and guarded their people on the ground. Ordinary humans felt the change inside them too: stronger, faster, sharper, yet it was the Dragonborn who carried the greatest weight. They were symbols now, symbols of a future the galaxy could not understand. The Council's spies reported everything. They sent recordings of dragon roars that shook the atmosphere, images of scales that reflected missiles, stories of humans healing in seconds. Every report carried the same warning: humanity is changing faster than we can react. In the chamber, silence fell at last. A voice older than the rest, belonging to a species that had seen the rise and fall of empires, spoke. If humanity is not stopped, the elder said, then the galaxy will belong to them. The words struck like a hammer. The Council realized that what they feared was not simply power but destiny. Humanity's fire had burned through death itself. If given time, they would rise beyond dragons, beyond anything the galaxy could imagine. Some empires demanded peace, hoping to bind humans with treaties and promises, but others demanded war, demanding fleets be doubled, weapons made stronger, forbidden technologies awakened. Yet as they argued, the truth was clear to all: fear had already taken root. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council felt powerless. And in the silence between their words, one thought spread through the chamber like fire: what if humanity was not the end of a problem but the beginning of a new age? On Earth, Aaron, the first dragon, looked up at the night sky filled with alien stars. His wings stretched wide, his golden eyes reflected the cosmos, and in his heart he felt something deep. He did not know what the Council decided, he did not know how far their fear reached, but he knew one thing: humanity had been awakened, and the galaxy would never see them as weak again. The hunters had become the hunted, and the rulers of the stars now trembled in their own halls. The fear of the Council was only the beginning. The sky above Earth was no longer a place of peace but a battlefield of fire and steel. The Galactic Council had chosen war. They gathered fleets from every empire, armadas of thousands of ships that darkened the stars with their sheer number. Colossal battleships armed with plasma cannons, carriers releasing endless swarms of fighters, and cruisers bristling with missiles moved into orbit around Earth. The Council believed sheer force would crush the humans, that no matter how strong they had become, they could not stand against the combined power of the galaxy. But on Earth, the Dragonborn waited. Their wings spread wide, their bodies glowing with fire and light, their hearts burning with fury. They had tasted their new strength, and they would not allow their world to fall. Aaron, the first dragon, stood on a mountain peak and watched the sky burn as alien fleets descended. His scales glowed like molten gold, his wings shimmered with power, and in his chest the fire roared to be unleashed. He leapt into the air, soaring higher and higher until he broke through the clouds, his roar echoing across the world. Behind him, others rose, hundreds of dragonborn, their wings filling the skies, their eyes blazing with light. Humanity had chosen to fight. The battle began with a storm of plasma fire raining down on the planet. Beams of energy tore across the sky, burning forests, mountains, and oceans. Cities shook under the impact, but before the flames could consume everything, the dragons struck back. Eren flew into the heart of the fire, his wings cutting through beams of plasma, his roar shattering sound itself. He unleashed a torrent of flame so bright it burned through the shields of a cruiser, tearing its metal apart like paper. The ship exploded, and the fire spread across the fleet. Other dragons joined him. A woman with wings of fire flew straight into a swarm of fighters, her breath turning them into ash before they could strike. A soldier dragon slammed into a battleship, his claws ripping through steel, his tail smashing cannons into dust. Dragons filled the skies like living meteors, diving and striking, burning and tearing, unstoppable and unafraid. The council fleets answered with everything they had. Missiles streaked across the sky, lasers cut through clouds, and bombs fell toward the ground. Yet even as explosions shook the planet, the dragons did not fall. Some were struck, their wings torn, their bodies burned, but with every wound they grew stronger. Their fire burned hotter, their roars grew louder, and the sky itself seemed to bend under their fury. On the ground, ordinary humans fought too. Soldiers armed with new strength charged into alien landing parties, lifting weapons heavier than tanks, crushing machines with their bare hands. Civilians defended their cities with courage that shocked the alien invaders. Children threw stones that shattered steel, women raised shields of glowing light, and men struck with fists like thunder. Humanity as a whole had become a weapon. Above them, the greatest battle unfolded. A dragon larger than any seen before flew into space itself, his wings glowing like a star. The vacuum did not kill him. Instead, his body burned brighter, his fire trailing across the void like a comet. He struck a carrier in orbit, ripping it apart from the inside, sending debris crashing down to Earth. The aliens screamed in fear. Reports filled the Council's channels. They are destroying our fleets. Our weapons are useless. They are flying in space. The Council leaders demanded the fleets push harder, but panic spread among the soldiers. For every dragon they struck, 2 more rose. For every ship they destroyed, 3 more dragons burned their carriers. It was not a battle of numbers. It was a battle of will, and the humans would not break. In the heart of the fight, Eren soared above the earth, his wings glowing brighter than the sun. He dove into the largest battleship, tearing through its shields with a single roar. His fire consumed the engines, his claws ripped open the core, and the ship exploded in a blaze that lit up the entire sky. The sight was burned into the eyes of every being watching across the galaxy. The Council had brought steel, but humanity answered with fire. And in that clash of fire and steel, it was the humans who rose higher. The aliens realized too late that this was no ordinary war. This was evolution itself, and evolution could not be stopped. The battle raged on, but the galaxy had already felt the truth. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting for their place among the stars. The fires of battle still burned in the skies of Earth, yet even as the Dragonborn fought against fleets of steel, whispers of something older began to stir. It started with a discovery on the red deserts of Mars. A group of human explorers, enhanced by their new strength, dug into the dust and uncovered ruins that no machine had ever detected before. Beneath the sand lay massive stone halls carved with symbols, glowing faintly as if alive. The carvings told a story older than humanity itself, a story of dragons and men standing together against ancient tyrants. The explorers sent their findings back to Earth, and soon every human leader, soldier, and dragonborn heard the truth. Humanity's transformation was not an accident. It was destiny written into their blood. Long before Earth had cities, before humans learned fire, a force had visited their world and planted seeds of power deep within them. The Council had believed they were wiping out a young species, but in truth they had triggered an awakening that was always meant to come. Aaron, the first dragon, flew to Mars himself, his wings carrying him across the void of space. In the ruins he saw the carvings with his own eyes, dragons with wings like stars, humans standing at their side, both united as warriors of fire. He felt something deep in his chest stir, a memory that was not his but belonged to all of humanity. He understood now why their fire had risen, why their bodies had changed. They were not the first, and they would not be the last. Humanity was chosen to become dragonborn, to rise when the galaxy fell into tyranny. Back on Earth, the truth spread like wildfire. In cities still scarred by battle, people looked to the skies with new eyes. They were no longer victims of chance, they were heirs to an ancient legacy. Ordinary men and women felt their strength grow sharper as the truth awakened something even deeper inside them. Children spoke of dreams where dragons whispered guidance, soldiers felt fire move through their veins with greater force, and even the weakest could feel the pull of destiny. The council received reports of the discovery and trembled. If humanity was truly chosen, then no weapon could stop them. Fear turned to dread in the hearts of alien rulers. Some empires began to whisper of surrender, others of alliance, but the most arrogant demanded humanity be destroyed before the prophecy was complete. Yet even as they argued, humanity continued to rise. The ruins of Mars were not the only secret. In the depths of Earth's oceans, glowing stones were uncovered, pulsing with the same energy that flowed in dragonborn veins. In the ice of Antarctica, carvings showed battles between dragons and alien conquerors thousands of years ago. Everywhere they looked, the evidence was the same: humanity was never ordinary. They were sleeping giants waiting for the right moment to wake. Aaron returned to Earth with fire burning brighter than ever. He stood before both humans and dragonborn and spoke not with words but with a roar that carried across the skies. In that roar was a promise. They were more than survivors, more than rebels. They were the future. The galaxy could no longer deny it. The hidden truth was revealed, and it spread fear into every corner of space. Aliens who had once laughed at humans now spoke their names with trembling voices. Fleets that had once hunted Earth now hesitated at its borders, unsure if they faced mortals or legends reborn. The council tried to hide the truth, but secrets as great as this could not be buried. Traders carried the stories, soldiers whispered them, and soon every world knew. The humans were not becoming dragons, they were returning to what they were always meant to be. On the edge of the galaxy, rebellions began to stir. Oppressed species saw hope in humanity's rise, believing that if humans could defeat the council's might, then maybe they too could be free. The galaxy was shifting, and it all began with the ruins in red dust. Aaron looked once more to the stars, his golden eyes reflecting their endless light. He knew the council would not stop. They would come again, with weapons greater than before, with hatred deeper than ever. But now humanity had something stronger than fire, stronger than steel. They had purpose. They had proof that their struggle was not by chance but by fate. The hidden truth had been uncovered, and it was only the beginning of humanity's rise. The galaxy trembled as humanity's secret spread, but the council did not stop. If anything, their fear pushed them to gather even greater fleets, to call upon forbidden weapons, to summon every empire under their banner. They believed that if they struck hard enough and fast enough, they could crush the dragonborn before their power grew beyond control. Yet on Earth, something even greater was unfolding. Aaron, the first dragon, had become a symbol of hope, but now his fire burned with a force beyond anything seen before. Day after day his body changed, his wings grew wider, his scales shone brighter, and his eyes glowed like twin suns. He no longer looked like a man reborn as a dragon but something greater, something vast, as if the very stars had chosen to take shape in him. The people began to whisper his name not only as Aaron but as the Dragon King, the one who would lead humanity beyond survival and into destiny. His roars shook the skies, his fire lit the oceans, and wherever he flew the ground itself trembled. Ordinary humans felt his power stir in their own veins, their strength sharpening whenever he passed above them. He was no longer just one of them, he was the heart of them all. The council watched his rise with dread. Their spies sent images of Aaron glowing in the night sky, his wings stretching wider than mountains, his shadow covering entire cities. Some alien leaders demanded that he be destroyed at any cost, even if it meant burning their fleets to ash, but others whispered that such a being might be unstoppable. Still, fear pushed them forward. They built weapons meant to kill stars, cannons that tore through planets, bombs that ripped apart space itself. And when they were ready, they unleashed their greatest armada yet. Thousands of ships poured into the Sol system, blotting out the sun with their numbers. Their doomsday weapon was unveiled, a device called the Deathlight, a cannon that could harness the energy of a dying star and focus it into a single beam of destruction. No world had ever survived its fire. The fleets moved into position, believing they would finally end the human threat. But Aaron rose to meet them. He soared into the void of space, his body blazing with fire, his wings unfolding like great banners of light. Behind him flew hundreds of dragonborn, their scales shining like jewels, their eyes filled with unbroken will. Humanity had come to stand not as prey but as warriors of destiny. The first clash was thunderous. Dragonborn smashed into fighter swarms, tearing them apart with claws and fire. Battleships unleashed storms of plasma, only to see their beams swallowed by the flames of human dragons. The void burned with light as fleets and dragons clashed in a war that shook the stars. In the midst of the chaos, the Deathlight charged. Its core glowed brighter and brighter, pulling energy from a captured star on the edge of the system. The beam built with terrifying power, and the alien commanders cheered in their arrogance. They believed no dragon, no matter how strong, could withstand the light of a dying star. But Aaron did not flee. He soared toward the weapon, his body glowing brighter than any fire, his wings spreading across space like endless banners. As the Deathlight unleashed its terrible beam, Aaron roared, a sound that echoed across every world, a sound that shook the hearts of every being. The beam struck him, a torrent of starfire meant to erase him from existence, yet he did not fall. His scales burned, his wings cracked, but his fire only grew. The humans watching from Earth saw his light blaze across the sky like a second sun. Ordinary men and women fell to their knees, knowing they were witnessing something greater than any myth. Aaron absorbed the fire of the dying star, his body swelling with its power, his roar turning into a storm that shattered the silence of space. Then with one strike of his wings he turned the fire back, bending the beam away and hurling it into the alien armada. Ships exploded by the hundreds, fleets burned in silence, and the Deathlight itself cracked under the force of his power. The Council's greatest weapon failed, and with it their hope of victory. The galaxy watched in awe as Aaron rose, his body now vast as a moon, his wings spanning the void, his fire brighter than suns. He was no longer only a dragonborn. He had become the Dragon King, a being of fire, light, and destiny. And in that moment, every empire knew the truth. Humanity was no longer a rising species. They were rulers in the making, chosen by fate to reshape the stars. The Council trembled in silence, their fleets broken, their pride shattered. And humanity, led by their Dragon King, stood ready to claim their place among the stars. The galaxy was silent after the fall of the Council's great weapon, but silence was not peace. Across the stars, the shattered fleets sent desperate calls for help, begging the empires to send reinforcements, to gather every ship and weapon to stop the humans. Yet fear had already spread faster than any fleet. Images of Aaron, the Dragon King, blazing brighter than a sun, wings stretched across the void, filled every screen in every world. Species who had once mocked humanity now stared with awe, some in terror, some in hope. The Council tried to speak with authority, demanding obedience, but their voices shook and their words carried no power. Too many had seen the truth with their own eyes. Humanity could not be destroyed. They were no longer only a people. They were a force of nature. On Earth, the Dragonborn returned from battle with fire still burning in their wings, their roars echoing across the skies. Ordinary humans lifted their heads with pride, knowing they were no longer weak, no longer prey. Even those who had not grown wings felt the power of evolution stirring in their veins, their strength sharper, their will unbreakable. They knew that if the Dragon King led them, there was nothing the galaxy could do to chain them again. But the Council was not finished. In secret, the most desperate empires built one final doomsday fleet, gathering weapons forbidden even by their own laws. Black hole bombs, star killers, machines that could tear apart entire systems were brought together in a last attempt to crush Earth. They called it the Doom Armada, and it was larger than any fleet ever seen before. When the Doom Armada entered the Sol system, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. Thousands of ships, glowing with deadly energy, formed a wall of steel around Earth. Alien commanders spoke with grim certainty. This would be the final battle. Either humanity would fall or the galaxy itself would burn. The humans did not hide. Aaron rose once more, his wings filling the void, his body glowing brighter than a star. Behind him flew thousands of Dragonborn, their fire trailing across the darkness like endless comets. The battle began in an explosion of fury. The Doom Armada unleashed its weapons, tearing apart moons, scorching planets, and shaking the system with storms of destruction. Yet the humans answered with fire. Dragonborn dived into the fleets, their claws ripping through battleships, their breath melting steel. The void burned with light as fire and steel clashed once more, each strike echoing across the cosmos. At the heart of the fight, the Doom Armada unleashed its greatest weapon, a black hole bomb meant to swallow Earth and its people in endless darkness. The weapon fired, the void twisted, and space itself screamed as the bomb's power pulled everything into its gravity. But Aaron roared, his voice shaking the stars, and with wings brighter than suns he flew into the heart of the darkness. His fire met the void, and for a moment the galaxy held its breath. Light and shadow clashed, fire and emptiness warred, and then with a roar that echoed through every world, Aaron shattered the black hole bomb. The explosion of light filled the system, brighter than any dawn, and when it cleared the Doom Armada was gone, burned to ash, broken beyond repair. Silence followed, and then the whispers began. Across the galaxy, the people spoke not of fear but of awe. They saw the Dragon King shield his world, they saw humans rise again, and they understood what the Council had refused to see. Humanity was not a threat to be destroyed. Humanity was the future. The empires that had once ruled with iron and fear began to bend their knees. One by one, fleets surrendered, worlds pledged loyalty, and leaders bowed before the Dragon King. But humanity did not enslave them. They did not seek to rule with chains. Instead, Aaron spoke with a roar that carried into every heart, promising peace, promising freedom, promising a galaxy where no world would ever again live in fear of the Council. And so the throne among the stars was given not to conquerors but to guardians. Humanity became the fire that lit the galaxy, the shield that broke tyranny, the hope that rose from ashes. The Dragon King watched the stars with golden eyes, knowing this was not the end. For in his fire he felt something deeper, a truth that whispered through his blood. Dragons were not the final form of humanity. They were only the beginning. Evolution had more to give, more to reveal, and the galaxy trembled not only at what had risen but at what was still to come. Humanity had claimed their throne among the stars, but their true destiny was only starting to unfold.